man. Welcome to the podcast. This is episode 9, Chalk Dinosaur podcast. You know, I've got a couple podcasts I'm trying to do in the next couple days. I'm getting ready to go to Sean Howard's studio, and we're gonna record an episode there, talk about what he does, and then we're gonna jam. And yeah, I wanted to record one before that. I couldn't sleep last night, and I was so close to just doing an episode late last night, but I didn't. I knew that would turn into a, way later than I planned, and didn't want to mess up my day too much. But yeah, couldn't sleep last night. That's frustrating. Whenever you go to bed at a good time, and then you can't sleep until, you might be trying to sleep for like 3 or 4 hours or something, and then it just feels like a waste because you could have been doing something else. But I'll tell you what, I don't have a problem sleeping unless I've done some kind of partying on the weekend, and then it really throws off my rhythm. Because let's see, Saturday there was a benefit show, fundraiser for a guy named John Brunetti. This is a guy that I've only met one time, but he's a person that seems to be very close with a lot of people that I'm close with. And some of those people, the Gima from Shaq Nicholson, reached out and asked if I'd be interested in participating in this. And yeah, so I did. It was a Saturday night. It was kind of like there was a lot of music going on, and then at the end of the night there was a jam, just like a rotating cast of musicians from all different bands that came and played some music, and I was really into that idea too, and I got to, I mostly played keyboard, and I also got to play some drums, which was really fun. But yeah, that was really fun. There was a lot of people there, and I saw so many musicians, local musicians, that are connected to this person that the fundraiser's for. But I saw so many people from so many different bands, and it was great. Yeah, so I kind of let it go that night, and I paid the price on Sunday. And then, yeah, probably tomorrow I'll have like a regular day. Anyway, something I noticed. I think I want to start giving out more random compliments. Not inauthentic compliments. I'm not going to lie to someone, but I've noticed, I've received a couple random compliments on random things, and it's been nice. For example, I was at the gas station the other day, and I dropped a pastry, but I had like one of those quick reaction catches where I caught it before it hit the ground, and there's the kind of things that a lot of times happens and nobody sees it, and you're like, ooh, that was a nice catch. But this time, gas station attendant or gas station clerk saw it and was like, "You've got fast reflexes." And that's my alarm going off. Yeah, and it's not like I pride myself on my ability to catch falling pastries, but for some reason that like lifted my mood a lot. Nice little ego boost there. Yep. And then I was at the gym working out, lifting some weights, very light weights too. got an unsolicited compliment on my front squat form by a trainer, and another one of those things. Felt pretty good, even though I was doing a pretty small amount of weight. Anyway, so I just noticed, that did lift. That did just those little things. They kind of changed they like put my mood on a higher trajectory, So if I see something that I like, or notice something that I like, I think I would like to bring that to the person's attention more often. Stroke the ego a little bit of that person. Not stroke the ego, but, make them feel good about something. Because just something as stupid as somebody noticing my pastry catch and complimenting it, that actually made me feel better for reasons. I don't know the reasons. Well, I kind of do, but it's just not expected that would really make a difference. Although there's a balance here, because I was, if I were to go up to someone and compliment them on the wrong thing, it could come off weird. For example, the same day when I was at Ascend at the gym lifting some weights and doing some climbing, I noticed a girl stretching, and she was really flexible. But if I just go up to a girl like that and my first words are, "Wow, you're really flexible," it just seems like that would come off creepy, or like it wouldn't be the same. It feels like, but maybe that's just me. Maybe it's because, yes, I found this person attractive, and so in my own head, that's creepy. Anyway, I'm trying out frozen broccoli. I love broccoli. Broccoli is one of my favorite foods. Not just favorite vegetable, favorite foods. My gateway drug to the broccoli was beef with broccoli. Chinese food broccoli. That brown sauce, man, that tasted so good. And it's continued into my adult life. And I've been getting the fresh broccoli. The fresh crowns of broccoli. And it's a very small expenditure of energy to chop it up, but I don't particularly like doing it because you kind of gotta get in. It's not like cutting up a carrot or like a mushroom, which is a very satisfying thing to cut. A mushroom or like a celery. Ooh, celery might be the best vegetable to cut. I don't know, but yeah. I started to ask myself, I started making smoothies with frozen fruit, and that made things a lot easier in terms of you don't got to worry about your berries getting fuzzy. You just dump them in, they double as ice. It's great. And I did not notice any difference. In fact, I prefer the frozen fruit, but I didn't notice a difference in the quality of my smoothie experience as opposed to fresh fruit. So I was curious if broccoli would be the same thing, because big bag of frozen broccoli already cut up, you just dump it in a pan. What I wanted to find out is my enjoyment going to be pretty much the same? If it's like a 90%, I enjoy it 90% as much, I'm definitely doing that, because I think it might be cheaper, and it's definitely faster. And it cuts out one of the steps I don't like about broccoli, which is getting my knife in there and cutting it into little pieces. Cauliflower is the same way. Cauliflower is a little bit of a hassle to cut up. It's so tightly packed. And then, when you're like sometimes you pry some off with your hands to get access to the stalks. You pry a little bit off from the outside, and then you've got cauliflower explosion of little cauliflower dust everywhere. That's a little more coarse than dust, but I've been messing around with, maybe I've been thinking about cutting up cauliflower a little bit too old-fashioned, cutting off every little tree trunk. So I think I eventually started just trying to cut it up into slices, like you've seen those cauliflower steaks, and just chop it up. Be like, I don't care how this is chopped up, that it's sideways half of a stalk, just a little square. But still, would the frozen cauliflower be 90% as good? What would be different about it? Well, I tried some frozen broccoli yesterday. It was, the convenience was really great. And I think the difference was it might have been a little bit softer. Little tiny bit mushier. But to be honest, I kind of like when the top of the broccoli is kind of soft. So that's I'm sticking with that for a little while until I kind of get sick of it. But I don't see that happening. And oh man, what was I gonna say? And the cauliflower, the broccoli. Yeah, I don't know how it would work if I roasted it. Roasting frozen broccoli, that might not work out so well. But for sauteed broccoli, I think I'm going frozen pre-cut. I've come to find that most of the things in my life outside of music have been simplified, or I've kind of had a tendency to try to simplify things simplify everything I can to the maximum degree. Maybe not everything, but like my diet, my food intake is very much this. I gravitated towards all food, like a lot of dishes where you just need one pot, where you only need a small number of cheap ingredients, and things that you can cook in one pot, eat in one bowl, store in one container, that don't take a long time. And within those recipes, if I can find pre-cut stuff, or you know what? Usually when I'm doing stuff like a soup or stew, it's the only pre-cut packaged stuff is probably like peas and corn and tomatoes. I don't mess around much with cutting up a bunch of tomatoes for a soup. I usually just get canned tomatoes. You know what I like about frozen fruit, frozen vegetables? Is that, that little message they write on it that says, frozen at the peak of ripeness. Yeah, that just makes me feel good inside. I think I'm gonna put that in a song. Frozen at the peak of ripeness. That's what everybody's trying to do with life. They're trying to freeze it at the peak of ripeness. But what I've found is that when I freeze my bananas, they continue to ripen at a slower pace. So you can't escape time, but you can slow it down. You can manipulate the perception of it. We all know that time perception is a flexible thing. It's malleable. For instance, you'll say, boy, that year went by really fast. Or, here's a better example. You're watching Netflix, a show that you're interested in. 3 hours can go by like that. And the same thing if you're engrossed in an artistic activity, writing, playing music, painting, whatever. If you're in the flow state, as they say, and your time perception is just not in your mind at all, large amounts of time can pass in what feels like a very short amount of time. And what I found is there's a couple activities, couple things that have the opposite effect, where they expand time. And those things are interesting to me because, as you probably all observed, the older you get, the faster time is perceived to go by. Since it's 1 year becomes a smaller and smaller portion of time relative to, your entire life experience. So it represents less time relatively. But there's a couple things that make time feel a lot longer. Meditation, one of those things. Trying to sit still and not entertain my thoughts and just focus on my breathing for 15 minutes feels like forever. It is really challenging for me at this point still, even though, it's not like... I've probably been doing it since 2015, 2016. Not 100% consistent, on and off, but still, it's not like this first time I've ever tried this, and it's hard to sit still and just not entertain the thoughts for only 15 minutes. It's hard to even do it for 5 minutes. It feels like the longest 15 minutes to me. To me, it does. And this is just a very low-level meditation. 15 minutes is nothing to a lot of more experienced meditators out there. So I like that. Slows things down. Another thing is exertion, like exercise. That's another one of those things that back in October when I was doing that little experiment, and I made it a point to exercise for 1 hour every day. Some type of exercise, physical activity, some kind of focusing on the maintenance of my physical body, whether it be stretching, running, lifting weights, climbing, like just some 1 hour focused on that. 1 hour, if I was working out harder, pretty hard, 1 hour felt like a really long time. If you're exerting yourself, and they can really feel like a long time. On an even more micro level, if you've heard about these things called Tabatas, this is a really interesting distortion of time. So Tabatas, it's like a high intensity interval thing where, let's say you're on a stationary bike. You can do it, apparently you can do it with any exercise you want, but you go on a stationary bike and you go 100% effort, as hard as you can for 20 seconds, and then you rest for 10 seconds. And then you go 100% for 20, and then you rest for 10. I think you do that 8 times, so it ends up being a 4-minute workout. I might be messing that up, but I think it's 4 minutes if you do that cycle 8 times, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. And those 20 seconds, they feel so long. If you're going 100% and you're waiting for that 20 seconds to be up, it feels so much different. And then, as a whole, that 4 minutes feels like you've done a lot in 4 minutes. Anyway, those are some examples of things that expand time. I like to have some of that might be, that's one of the reasons I gravitate towards exercise and meditation. It kind of slows things down a bit because time just accelerates when you're in your head, and when you're distracted, basically. So meditation and exercise are activities where you're kind of focused on a simple task that doesn't involve thinking. Yeah, time expansion. You can't stop time, but you can affect your perception of it. I love that. And another interesting thing I noticed was it really blows my mind that John Henderson, our guitar player, Andrew Belcastro, bass player, as a 4-piece band, the 4 of us, me, my brother Nick, Andrew, and John, we played our first show last summer. And that just blows my mind because it feels like we've done a lot of stuff since then. That just seems so long ago. And there are some years where a year goes by and I feel like it was nothing. Like, wow, that was that long ago? I thought, I felt like it was yesterday is the phrase that is most commonly used. But in this case, the first Farm Jam that John played, which was last July, first show as a 4-piece band, that does not feel like yesterday. That feels like years ago, many years ago. So, and maybe that's because we did a lot of stuff throughout the year, so there are all these little landmarks that were kind of close together that, made it feel like that. Maybe because there was, a lot of progression. Yeah, that's an encouraging thought for me, that only last summer we played our first show, and it's good to kind of, take encouragement from progression. Progression is a very encouraging thing for me, and that's why I love recording our shows, and I post them all on YouTube, Chalk Dinosaur YouTube channel, just the GoPro video unedited of pretty much all of our shows. And I know it's not the kind of content that's gonna get a bunch of views or that people are even gonna be interested in, other than a small handful of people. But that's not why I'm doing it. I upload it just as a record, just for something that we can watch when we want to go back to that time, because it's just a snapshot in time. It's really fun to hang out and watch those shows and kind of observe from a third person perspective what the show was like, because it's always very hard to tell for me when it's happening. What is it like from the outside? And especially after you have some time separation after the show was filmed, when you go back and watch it with a fresh perspective where you kind of forgotten the little things that happened in the show, I find it to be very entertaining, very encouraging, because we blow up these minute things, or we exaggerate maybe any of the things that didn't go perfectly in our own minds. At least me, I'm speaking as me here. I blow up the little details that might have not gone perfect. They get blown up in my own head. But that goes away after some time, or you're just so aware of how the set was supposed to go and how close you got to it going that way. Right after the show happened, you've got the expectations that your show is being compared with. But after a couple weeks, couple months have passed, those expectations of what the show should be are gone because you've moved on. So you just have the show, and you're not comparing it really to, your practices leading up to the show or anything like that. And a lot of times turns out to be a lot, I end up being a lot more pleased with the show after some time has passed, and then we go and watch it. And I'm often encouraged, and I think the rest of us are, like, that was, we did a good job. That's not to say that there aren't things that we notice that we can do better. That's one of the great advantages of watching your performances or practices, or listening to them. It's very revealing, but it's, in our experience, it hasn't been like a discouraging kind of revealing. It's been encouraging, but also constructive. I think one of the things I noticed in some of the shows, and I think we got better at this as we've been getting better at this, but something I noticed was the amount of time between our songs. Like our transitions are, we might have, we might play some of our songs well individually, but we haven't been able to string them together as fluidly as a more experienced and matured band. So that's something that we put an increasing amount of focus on as we got the songs down better. We started to focus on the set as a whole a little bit more, and we're still working on that for sure. Yeah, that's something we're thinking about more. Anyway, what's happened with Chalk Dinosaur this month? We had 2 shows. The first show was on November 1st. It was at the Rex Theater with a producer named Manic Focus and another producer named Marvel Years. And they were doing DJ sets. Marvel Years played some guitar. So for that show, we just did it 2-piece, me and Nick, and we played the more electronic side of Chalk Dinosaur. I think we did 4 songs off the new album, and then some of the old standbys. Which, by the way, I like start to feel guilty about playing those sometimes because they're getting to be kind of old now, which is weird. And I'm like, man, people are probably getting sick of hearing this. But I've always got to keep it in perspective. Sometimes people want to hear those certain songs. People are hoping to hear certain songs that are kind of more well-known. So whenever my brother Nick kind of brought up that point, like some people, when we play this one song, I see people moving and like getting into it a lot. When we play Lickety Split, like that's the song that I see people get going to. I see people get into that song every time. So I'm like, all right, well, let's add it to the set. Yeah, so that was a 2-piece show at the Rex. Me and Nick decided to wear fake mustaches for that show and Hawaiian shirts, which it felt good to be in a congruent uniform. And yeah, there were not a lot of people there when we started our set. In fact, it was like our bass player was in the crowd, our friend Thad, like our merch guy. It's like maybe like 10 people in the room, in that big room at the Rex when we started our set. It filled in by the end, but yeah, one of those times where you wear a fake mustache and a Hawaiian shirt. One of the many times you do that in life, and it felt a little weird that there was nobody there and we had these costumes on. But anyway, that was a pretty good show. It was fun getting to play some new stuff, and very grateful for the opportunity to be in the same bill as Manic Focus, who's a very accomplished producer, very very successful, and Marvel Years. They run in the same circle, all these electro funk kind of heavy bass music / funk music. I haven't really, I played with Manic Focus and Russ Liquid last year, I think. And I did have a chance to talk to them a bit, and I was trying to get to know them a little bit and trying to become friends with them. But yeah, I didn't see him this show. Yeah, I don't think I saw him off the stage. And I was gonna go talk to the Marvel Years guy, but he was occupied when I was going to talk to him. So Wasn't able to have a conversation with either of them aside from the greeting. But that's okay, because I didn't really have much to back up my conversation with, which is a good thing, because I had literally just heard of Marvel Years, so I checked out a few songs on my way to the venue. So I didn't really know the music well enough to kind of like really get into a deeper conversation about it. And same thing with Manic Focus. Like I've listened to a few tracks. I really did like his single kind of recently called Lyrebird. It's like a very chill track, which was not what I was expecting. But yeah, like I didn't know enough to have like I didn't feel prepared to have like a good conversation on a peer level, because I didn't have enough ammo. What would be the ammo? Like if I'm a big fan of somebody's and I get a chance to talk to him, I can talk to him about specific things, about how they did a certain thing. And people are, if they've created something, I find that they, and me included, if somebody else enjoys what you've created, and they want to know about a specific part of it, I love talking about that kind of stuff. And I think what I found is, other people do too. If you are asking them about a certain thing that's kind of been a point of pride for them, like something that they put a lot of work into and that they are proud of, and someone, wants to know more about it, I find that people just, they definitely enjoy talking about it. And that's kind of been my approach when I talk to any musicians, really, is, or just people in general, especially, people that do anything. I guess people in general, if you talk to them about what they do and things they do well, that's kind of the best way I know how to connect with somebody quickly, is to talk about them talk to them about what they do, and with a genuine interest in understanding their approach to it. What I've found is that, I'm pretty good at talking with other musicians about what they do. And there's something about musicians and artists, maybe not on the same like level of ease of connecting, but still better. Like I can connect with musicians and artists and people doing creative stuff and the arts and stuff. Like I just connect with those people, but musicians in particular, so naturally. It's great. Especially if we play a similar type of music, or they play a type of music that I really like, or there's some weird connection that's just kind of, in most cases, automatically there. Like I feel like I've known someone for a longer time than I have. That happens a lot with musicians, which is great. I love that feeling of connection. But on the other hand, I am pretty not comfortable and not very good at connecting with people who are not in that sphere. Not all the time. There's plenty of non-musicians and non-artists that I connect well with. But in general, when I'm meeting new people, or I'm in a social situation, and it's like let's say, for example, it was like a business conference or something, or like some kind of completely unrelated thing that I have, I don't know, you get the idea. I'm pretty bad at that, until I find out that somebody either plays music or does art or does anything that I have some kind of feeling of connection to. So, I mean, my social life has become completely centered in what's going on, what I do with music, and yeah, it just completely revolves around music now. Like the people I live with are my brother and Andrew, and we do music together. They're honestly most of my social life. And the times I do get out, it's usually for a music event, like a show, like that show on Saturday. Sometimes a show that I'm just going to as a just to watch, and then other times, people coming over to record, jam sessions. It's all revolving around music, and I like it that way. That is not entirely been by design, but it kind of just has happened. I mean, aside from family and some of my oldest friends, yeah, if I'm doing any social life, I don't really have much of a social life unless it's, the music scene is kind of where I get my socialization. Is that the right word for that? It's where I do my socializing, which is great because I connect with those people the most, and the most easily. And I feel like a sense of belonging in that group of people, which is a good feeling. I've been in plenty of social situations where I get the opposite feeling. I feel like I don't belong, and then I feel very uncomfortable and withdrawn. And you know what they say? When I say they, I mean I've heard this from a lot of different people, and heard it in a lot of different ways. Just from a lot of, it's kind of a rule I've been hearing, a law of nature, and you've probably heard it, that you're a product of the people that you spend the most time with, or you're a product of the people that you hang out with, or you're a product with the people that you surround yourself with. Some variation of that idea. I think it's very true. How often do you spend a lot of time around someone, or have you witnessed somebody, spending a lot of time around a certain person or certain group of people, and they start acting differently? They start acting like that other, the two people start kind of acting like each other. And that's something I've been thinking about more, like I should be a little, I should be more active in surrounding myself with people who have qualities that I admire, and people who I connect with, and people who inspire me, and stuff like that. And hanging out around music does that, because these are people that they just feel like my kind of people. Not saying that if you're not a musician or an artist, you're not my type of person. It's not true. In general, though, it's 100% true that if I'm hanging out with people who are superior in terms of anything, it's going to make me better by osmosis. There's a song on the new Recluse album. Recluse is a band from Pittsburgh. I'm sure you've heard of them. Well, I'm not sure, but you've probably heard of them. And they had a new album. One of the songs was called Dumbest Guy in the Room. And I'm just using the title as an example here. The song, I don't think, has anything to do with this concept or this truth in the world that, being the dumbest guy in the room, it doesn't feel good, but it is good. Figuratively, the dumbest guy in the room. You could be just like being at the bottom rung in a scenario, just increase, like, it subconsciously raises your effort level or your urgency to improve. So whenever I'm in those situations and I'm at the bottom of the ladder and people are, I'm hanging out with people that are way more advanced than me in something, that makes me better at whatever it is I'm doing. So if I'm hanging out with musicians or playing with certain players or something that are amazing, even just being around them or watching them do something, that like seeps into me. And I think that is the same with everybody. Like, it's pretty amazing. Sometimes I'll watch a performance and then my playing, and then we'll get together to practice after I've witnessed something that I feel like is amazing and inspiring. And I'll be better after seeing that. Like, it'll be a better practice for me. Or, when I'm playing with the Clock Reeds, who are all jazz trained musicians and understand music on a level that I don't. Like I'm in kindergarten and they're graduating college or maybe even grad school. I don't know, but when I'm in those scenarios, I have to. There's just a higher sense of. Well, I don't know. It's like a subconscious. Just being around people that are better than you. Raises your level. And, the same thing happened as a child. If you are a person that had older siblings and you guys would play together and you were playing with your older siblings' friends in sports or something, it made me a better athlete. I feel like it made my younger brother Nick, made him a better athlete. Because you're with people who are at a higher level than you. So being the dumbest guy in the room is a good thing, and I think it's so helpful for growing. So I'm trying to spend more time around people who are people who are way more advanced than me and stuff. For example, I just took my first piano lesson in 8 years. Yesterday, a guy by the name of Lucas Bauman or Bowman. I heard Clinton Clegg call him Lucas Bowman, so maybe I've been saying his name wrong. Lucas, I'm sorry if I did, but he's a jazz piano player. One of these people that I've been describing who is light years ahead of me in terms of musical development and knowledge. And so he was over for a couple hours. Actually, it was great. I got to pick his brain on a bunch of stuff, get his advice on how to, what kind of steps should I take to get started here? Because I want to actually, I want to work on my piano playing, keyboard playing, because I can do simple melodies, simple chords, and I'm relying a lot on just being a little piece of whatever is going on. Not being, I'm pretty limited in what I can do. I can play melodies. I can do rudimentary like soloing, but it's mostly just like melodies. Not that is vital to creating a impactful piece of music. Like it can be dead simple and still be impactful, which I love about music. It doesn't have to be crazy theoretical and it doesn't have to be anything specific to be impactful and move someone. But every time I watch a musician like Anomaly, I just caught wind of this guy Anomaly. You should check him out. I watched some videos and he is so good. Piano player, but like also seems to be like an Ableton genius. And when I see some players like Lucas, like Benny Rossman, like the players in the Clock Reeds, guys that are so fluid in the language of music and fluid on their instruments, it just looks so free and nice. Like, I want to have that freedom of expression where I just have an understanding of the language that I can, say whatever I want. Because at this point, I can say a lot of the things I want through my playing. I'm speaking figuratively here. But there are some limitations. Limitations are good to have, it kind of forces you to be more creative within your means. But whenever I see a player who appears to be truly fluent on their instrument or in music, that just looks like such a nice thing to have. Like watching Jules Powell play drums. That just looks amazing. That looks like euphoric to be able to express so freely on an instrument. And I can definitely say that, the better I've gotten, the more fun it gets. And not that it was never not fun. Like, I've always loved making whatever music I can make with whatever skills I have, whatever sound I have. Because there's always something you can do. And, there is also a truth, like, if you get the music, I don't want it to get too abstract and theoretical and to the point where a person who's not a trained musician can enjoy it. I don't want to get to the point where a person who's not trained can't enjoy it, can't connect with it. But I want to have that information, and I want to be able to play with the fluidity of, that which I speak, English. I love that analogy, too, of music as a language. It's so true. It's so spot on. And I think I saw some video where someone was comparing speaking with improvising and saying, everybody can improvise. We all do it every day. When we put together words to form sentences and we express our thoughts and our feelings, we're improvising sentences. Nobody's telling us what to play. We're not reading something. We're just talking. So, yeah, and the music is the same thing with you've got notes, letters, and phrases. And you can form sentences, and you're using these musical words and sentences to express yourself. And yeah, so I would just like to get fluent so I can freely express in music. Dang, went off on a tangent there. We got a Chalk Dinosaur show. It's coming up December 4th. This is a fish after party show. And it's going to be me plus the clock reads. This will be the 4th time we've done this, I think, where we've played a show together. It's always fun. It's fun to get together with those guys. Fun to play with that band, and just be involved in their playing and get to see what it's like being in their world. So yeah, usually a little bit intimidating because a little out of my depth, but it also is fun just to try and find a place where I can fit into that and not be messing things up. And let's see. Oh yeah, we had a show on the 15th, November 15th, at Thunderbird. This was our first time at the Thunderbird, the newly renovated music venue in Lawrenceville. And that place is sweet. That room is so cool. And it's really amazing how much different it looks. Chalk Dinosaur played at the Thunderbird before it got renovated. This was probably 10 years ago. And it was such a small and kind of crowded. The stage was tiny, and it was very crowded, not easily accessible. It's pretty amazing, the transformation. It was, and the stage is like the solid concrete, so it sounds really controlled and good up on stage, and yeah, it's great. but we played with a band called Different Places in Space, who they were at the benefit show fundraiser jam last night, or no, oh my God, did I say last night? On Saturday night. And yeah, those guys are a lot of fun, and it was great getting to see them again. And also on the bill was Misaligned Mind, who is a band from Pittsburgh, a power trio, led by Zach Wiesinger, who I hope to have on the show sometime, because he is, well, I just like stuck on my middle finger, but that was, that was unintentional. No, Zach is, I've known Zach peripherally for a really long time, going back to, pre-puberty years, because his family is friends with my best friend's family, the Bezaks, who I grew up on the same street as them. They were friends with Wiesingers. So I've kind of known Zach and seen him around since, early adolescence, I guess. Grade school years, actually. But, started doing a little bit of music here and there with him, starting around 2011, just random jams. Made a couple weird tracks together, really weird tracks. Would love to eventually put something together with him, write some more music with him, because he is one of the most uniquely talented and creative musicians that I've ever met, and really, truly amazing player and composer in Pittsburgh. One of the, he's a world class player and composer, and I love seeing him play, and I was so pumped to be able to play a show with him, because we've never played a show together in all the years we've known each other. We've never played a show with Chalk Dinosaur and Zach and Misaligned Mind. I have played some shows with him, sat in with his band a few times, played drums with his band when they did some shows in Texas and Tennessee, and but our bands have never played together. Anyway, if you don't know him, go see one of his shows, and I think you'll find it highly, highly entertaining. I gotta remember to mail. I'm doing a shirt trade with the Starblazer guy. So you may have seen on social media or not. There's a game of a virtual reality, a VR game called Starblazer, and the developer, it's like an indie game, and those developers found me because I have an album called Starblazer, and they started putting some Starblazer, the music, the song, they started putting little Easter eggs in their game, which I thought was awesome. So I think there's like there's a VR lounge, and if you go up to the jukebox, Starblazer, the song will start playing or something like that, and it'll show the credits, or show the artist name or something. I forget. That's so funny. But he's gonna send me a Starblazer shirt, because they got these shirts for their game and it just says Starblazer on it, and which I'm pretty pumped about. And he's sending us shirts for the whole band, which is amazing. I'm gonna send him some shirts too, some Chalk Dinosaur shirts. I've always wanted to be in a game. Apparently, I hear Starblazer is in that like beat slicing game, like Beat Ninja or whatever. I don't have a VR system, so unfortunately I can't experience these things. Well, I could if I knew someone that had VR. I'm not ready to get one of those yet. But anyway, that's pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited to have a Starblazer shirt. New album. I'm still aiming for the end of the year, before 2020. It's going to be about 7 songs. And these songs are going to have they're all going to have vocals and lyrics. And they're of, it's a pretty diverse range of styles. But this album's really about, it's just songs. That is the thing. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've got to get cranking on that because I've not been, because I've been kind of focused on the shows and trying to do some more library work, like my job of composing background music for TV shows. I've been trying to crank out a bunch of that because I spent a lot of time traveling this year and not working and doing shows. It just like trying to recoup here. And yeah, I spent a lot of time out. Probably about 2 months total traveling, not working. And then we played a lot of shows. And whenever we're playing shows, I'm usually my studio is a little bit in disarray because all my stuff is at our practice space, and I'm usually focused on the sets, and I'm not focused on new material or stuff like that, and a lot of times not, and a lot of times I just don't have work to do, like production work, the freelance TV production stuff. So I either have a lot of that to do or none of it. And so I was away for a while. If I hadn't have done all that traveling, I would definitely have more money right now. But I don't regret it at all because I'm still here. And now I've done something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And it's not ultimately going to matter that I don't have more money right now. That's the thing. This current status of life right now for me is very insecure. There is no job security. There is no retirement security. There's no benefits. But I have enough to pay for everything I need to pay for. And live pretty much the way I want to live. I don't know what I would add. I guess I don't know. But yeah, it's totally different than everybody that's jumped into the regular job sector, which is the majority of people that's not doing independent contracting. It's just a very different world. Everybody's got 401ks and retirement accounts and benefits and stock options, or I'm so uneducated in all that stuff. I need to talk to someone about that. But yeah, I sacrifice that kind of security and long-term planning. I don't have any of that, but I do have a lot of freedom, and that's a trade. That's a hard trade, and a lot of people aren't willing to sacrifice security in order to go for something else that they want to do. And I understand that. I have that even in my own world where, okay, so I'm doing this background music for TV. That is my security, like doing that, assuming I keep getting asked to do it. Because it's on a case-by-case basis. It's not like I'm not an employee. They just ask me when they have specific things they need and think that I would do a good job on. So I have that kind of security, and that allows, and that's parallel to Chalk Dinosaur, which is, my personal passion stuff. and the library work is, how to make ends meet. So, I hear there's two ways people I've heard talk about it. They're like, well, you can't have a plan B because then you're not going to try as hard on plan A. This is true. This is 100% true. Okay, good. Just had to make sure that's still going. This is 100% true. If I didn't have this library work, I would for sure be trying harder with Chalk Dinosaur, with my personal production work and trying to work privately for musicians. Like, I know that would be true. If my back was a little more up against the wall than it is right now, I would definitely be trying harder. But as it is, I don't have to rely on Chalk Dinosaur as my breadwinner. And honestly, I don't know how it would be, right? It's like I think I'm losing money. I think I might be like at equilibrium here with Chalk Dinosaur, and the expenses and income probably at like an equilibrium. Like, I'm just trying to get it so the people in my band that are playing with me don't have to pay out of their own pocket to play in the band. But if that were the only option and I had to make it work, I would be trying harder. But do I want it to be like that? I have been very resistant to putting all that pressure on Chalk Dinosaur because I don't want it to. I'm scared of it becoming a burden. And now, since we're playing as a full band, I have to. I'm not only asking these questions for myself. These other guys have to be asking these questions too, and they've all got established careers that can provide a lot more than Chalk Dinosaur can. So I'm scared of it becoming a burden, becoming a source of stress, something that I don't want it to be something that I feel trapped by, that I have to do something. If we started going down the route of being professional performers, well, if we were doing a lot of touring and stuff, like the guys in the band, they wouldn't be able to keep their jobs. They would have to get some kind of much lesser job to allow them the flexibility to do touring and stuff. And that's like not an equal choice at all, because Chalk Dinosaur doesn't make any money. But then there's chicken and egg, or I know you could eventually make that money if you give it your all. But do we really want that? I don't know. Do I really want that? Do I want? Because then if you put it all into Chalk Dinosaur, performing is probably going to be a very big chunk of any income you make. Like, a lot of people, that is the income. And once you get into that place, then you've got to keep touring, it seems like, because you can't just choose here and there shows to play. You've got to keep playing shows and touring to make a living, year round. And I'm very hesitant to do that. I might try it out. We might do some weekend shows as a band. I might try some more touring-ish stuff solo, just since flexibility-wise, I could take some opportunities, perhaps. If the band isn't available, I could do solo shows. I've also been very, very much thinking about starting some kind of DJ persona, DJ artist outlet. Because I've always wanted to keep everything under Chalk Dinosaur. But I've become increasingly interested with starting a separate artist entity specifically to release just very electronic music and of a much more narrow style, and something that I could perform, that I could just DJ. And there being no expectation of me doing anything else other than DJing. I always thought it would be fun to get to play my productions through big sound systems. I love listening to stuff I've worked on. I love listening to it loud. I love presenting it loud. And just listening to that stuff with people. And DJing is where you get to do that. You get to just present your productions exactly as you created them. You don't have to try and match that. It's not like when you're in a situation where you're trying to match an album recording, which in the case of our full band, I think we exceed our album in terms of the live experience, assuming that the sound is good out front, like the sound guy is doing a good job. I feel like there's more energy, you get more from it when you hear it live, which is good. It's great. It's always kind of been the opposite for me, where I'm trying to match a studio recording, and it's been very hard. This one, we're trying to match our live energy on our recording. But yeah, if you're DJing, you're using the things you've recorded and presenting those and mixing those together in a way that creates the kind of energy you want to create. And yeah, I just want to do that. I'm so into the idea that if I learn how to use CDJs, I can travel anywhere with a USB stick and headphones and play music for people. But I want to do it under a different name so that there's no expectations. Because with Chalk Dinosaur, there's already too many different expectations based on what people have heard. Because the albums are a lot different. The band exists in like 4 different forms, solo, duo, trio, and quartet. Yeah, like we've played shows as just solo, just me and my brother and Andrew, and then all 4 of us. And each of those different arrangements have different sets, like different sets of songs that we can play and that work with those. So I'm going to take the DJ out of it and make that a separate thing, I think. I'm thinking of names, and I'm still thinking of names. I'm not going to discuss that right now, actually, because that's still secret. I don't want any outside influences when I'm coming up with a name, unless I've specifically consulted someone. But yep. All right, I got a question from Funk Emmanuel on Instagram. His name's Emmanuel. I asked him if he had any questions that he wanted me to go over on the podcast. And let's see. Emmanuel Wright asked me for tips on how to take production live. So everybody seems to do things in slightly different ways. It really depends on what kind of music you're making, what kind of show you want to do, and how much involvement you want to have with, how much micro involvement, like how much playing of instruments do you want to do? Because on one end of the spectrum, you've got band, which is people performing all the elements of the songs. And then on the other end of the spectrum, You've got DJ, which is somebody playing pre-recorded pieces of music and mixing them together on a much more macro level. And then you've got everything in between, which is where Chalk Dinosaur is, where there's some pre-recorded elements, there's some samples and loops and electronic elements, and then there's also a band playing. And then there's like my solo show, which is mostly loops and pre-recorded electronic stuff, and then I'm playing one instrument or something. So there's the whole spectrum in the middle. And the simplest way to share your productions and perform your productions is probably to DJ. It requires the least amount of equipment, and you get to showcase your productions, and it's pretty simple. Not diminishing what a DJ does at all, but just in terms of like stuff you've got to coordinate. I'd say full band, obviously that's hard to coordinate. You've got multiple people involved now, and so everybody's schedules and priorities and stuff are taken into account and trying to coordinate, get everybody on the same page. And then in the middle, you could do a solo thing where you have kind of a hybrid thing, which is kind of where I started doing stuff in like 2015 when I was doing solo shows and making music for solo performance. It was a hybrid stuff where I was doing beats, some loops, and playing instruments. So I'm very much trying to figure stuff out myself. But here's something that really is what lit the fire for everything over the last 4 years. And that was recording videos. So my advice would be record some videos of you performing something. If you go to the Chalk Dinosaur Facebook page, you can see the very early videos. I think I named them Studio Jam. So my goal, I got a GoPro. And my goal was, I realized I can record video and I can record high quality audio and I can put them together. So I just need to create something simple. I had like a setup. What did I have? I set up all my instruments. And then I tried to just make a piece of music that was simple enough that I could perform it in, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Shorter the better, really, for the video, because you can do more takes of it, and it won't be as hard to get all the way through it. But part of the challenge was I have to be able to get all the way through it without making any huge mistakes. So, I'd start a drum beat, and then I'd either like start an arpeggiator, or like if you're working in Ableton, start a drum beat, then start an arpeggio loop, and then you could either like jam on the bass synth or like bass guitar, or you could record a loop of another thing. Just if you are focused on, all right, I'm going to try and make a performance video that's 5 minutes. 5 minutes doesn't take that much time. If you're just trying to make something simple that you can get through in 5 minutes, like you'll see in the Studio Jam videos that I posted on the Chalk Dinosaur page a long time ago, like they start out very primitive and then they keep getting more sophisticated with each video, kind of. And so that's the thing, like start out really simple, just try and make a piece of music that you can get through in 5 minutes. So I would kind of just have a progression that I would go through, like, all right, I'm going to start out with the beat, and then I'm going to play some chords, and then I'm going to and then I'm going to trigger this loop that's going to play some different chords, and then I'm going to play some lead things. And I would just have 4 little sections of I would do different things, and then it would end. So, and boy, that was a really powerful thing, because it caused it caused me to write music. I wasn't planning on writing music necessarily. I just wanted to make a video, but it forced me to make a 5-minute or so piece of music that I could get through. It caused me to not make things too complicated because I had to be able to, get through it. And so I was at the same time creating videos and writing music. And then through those videos, had stuff to book shows with, like to show people to get booked in shows. And through those videos is how I started getting booked in shows with that material. And then once that started, there's just the chain reaction just continued, and it's continuing to this day, which is just crazy. And it started from making videos, focusing on trying to make a simple 5-minute piece of music that I could get through, that kind of just had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And within the middle, however many different things I wanted. But yeah, my advice would be keep it simple, try and make 5-minute piece thing that you could perform. And take a video, like try and make a 5-minute performance video. And, don't worry about how complex it is or anything. Just 5 minutes, just a finished piece of music. What does finished mean? That it just has a beginning, a middle, and an end in this case. Because I wasn't taking time to really overthink these pieces of music, and a lot of them ended up on the album. I kind of just went with, all right, that's good enough. It doesn't need to be any, I wasn't getting really microscopic with these. It was very general, or very much bigger. I don't know how to express this. It was just simpler than when I sit down at a computer and try to make music, and you have unlimited possibilities. It's really easy to start making things, to get too microscopic with things. And with the video, I had to keep it, just by necessity, had to keep it more broad, had to keep it more simple so that I could perform it. But then when you're done with the video, I would have an idea. All right, these are going to be the main sections of the song. And then once I had that, I would just do video takes. Some of them I would get quickly. Other ones would take me many takes to get a take where I made it all the way through without making any too big of errors. But yeah, and then just start out simple, really simple. Don't worry about if it's good or bad. And yeah, just focus on making the complete idea that you could take a video of. Because those things just naturally got more sophisticated and more complex with each video. And you can see it in the videos that they start out very simple. And they keep... it kind of starts to get complex pretty quickly, because once I made the first one, I had a bunch of ideas about what I could do for the next one. And then those ideas kind of kept building, and then the system of how I was making the sound kind of developed and changed. So yeah, that was probably the most amazing, helpful thing that I've done in terms of taking production live. However, if you're not so interested in doing that, I think DJing productions that would also be a great and ultimately easier, simpler way to showcase your productions, exactly how they were recorded, which would be great. I would like to do that. I'd like to do more of that. But at the time, I was more interested in doing something more performance-based in terms of musical instruments and triggering stuff and whatever, because I felt I don't know, I felt like, I don't know, I didn't really understand what DJing was even at the time. Low battery, and I was really feeling called to do something more improvisational in terms of, and like more physically rooted in playing an instrument. That's just what I was feeling called to almost. And then I kind of had a few years. I mean, I still have it, but the feeling of needing to like legitimize my musicianship or something. Like I need to be playing an instrument and doing something to like be seen as legitimate. One of these little head games we play. So I was feeling that a little bit. I was feeling that pretty hard actually when I first started. So I was like, oh, I can't just be like playing music up here. But little did I know, yes, you can. That's what DJs do. They play pre-recorded music. So there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's quite, some people will like it quite a lot. It's quite popular these days. I guess it's been quite popular for a long time. So it was such a foreign world to me, and it kind of still is. Like it's a complete different world, the DJ world. It for some reason I like couldn't wrap my head around what a DJ actually does. Is like I thought they were like making all the sounds happen when they're happening somehow, like with their controllers. Like I thought they were like making these sounds happen, and on a level they are, but I had the assumption that it was like more more micro controlled than it was, and it's when in reality they're mixing music, they're mixing pre-recorded pieces of music one into another and making a, and the artistry in DJing is to weave together, a set with precise energy control and being able to, read the crowd and get the crowd going and there's a whole world of artistry in that, and that's something that I've been, trying to wrap my head around for years. I'm finally getting there, but not even scratching the surface with that stuff. But that was like, just took me forever to understand that. Like I thought they were doing all the little sounds and beeps and boops, but no, it's like somebody produced that music and it might have been them, and they're kind of like presenting it and weaving it into a set that they're mixing together. And that like blew my mind. I was so dumb about that. I was also pretty dumb about, no, not dumb, just naive to, like just another thing that kind of blew my mind when I realized was that so much hit music from across history and even today is, written by someone else other than the performer. That really blew my mind whenever I was like, oh my God, this song wasn't written by this band or this artist. Like I had it in my head that every song was written by the person who was singing it. That's just like something unless they're singing like a Christmas carol. Like if there was a performer playing a song, I just believed in my head, I assumed naively that every song was written by the person who was performing it. And then I started, and then I saw Motown. I saw the Motown the musical, I think, and it revealed the world of, they had songwriting team, and they wrote the songs for almost all of the artists. Not every song, but the vast majority. They would write the songs for the artist. The artist would perform it. Like and so it's like a two-part thing. And then I was looking at all my records and looking at, lists, the song and then the songwriter. And I was like, oh my God, all these songs are actually written by, different people. So, and that still exists today, definitely in pop music and in places like Nashville and LA, there's two sides of music, songwriting and then performing, songwriter and then artist. And those are two separate things. And, it's nothing wrong with that. I just completely thought wrongly that, artist was always the songwriter. And that blew my mind when I realized that they're different in a lot of cases. All right, this has been going on way longer than I thought it was going to. All right, I want to end on a couple things here. So a long time ago, I was hanging out with a friend named Bob, and I think we were talking about Christmas music, and we were listening to "Baby It's Cold Outside," and he was like, "Man, I kind of get like a creepy vibe from this song," and he was absolutely right. There has to have been like a joke or a skit about this song, because it indeed, when I'm looking at the lyrics, is quite creepy. Yeah. What do we have here? I'm trying to find some lyrics that demonstrate my point here. Yeah, he's just like, she's like, in the song, it's like she says a line and he says a line, and she's like continuously like, I simply must go. But baby, it's cold outside. The answer is no. Baby, it's cold outside. And he doesn't take no for an answer. And then dang, in this day and age, man, no means no. But back then, he's like not accepting no for an answer. She wants to get out of there. Seems like she wants to get out of your creepy apartment, dude. Like you met out on the street, and on a whim, she came over to his house on a date, and she got to his house and saw that he had a bacon mask sitting on the kitchen counter, and she's trying to get the heck out of there, and he's like, no, you must stay. I'm not going to let you leave. Next time you hear the song, I can never listen to the song the same way again. It's just creepy. What's the line? Oh, there's a line at the end. There's bound to be talk tomorrow. Think of my lifelong sorrow. At least there will be plenty implied. If you got pneumonia and died. This was after, he'd been trying for the whole song to get her to stay against her will, trying to convince her to stay. And now he's talking about her dying and the implications of her not coming home. Right, we'll tell them that you got pneumonia and died, but really, I'll be on my way to Mexico. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Next time you listen to "Baby It's Cold Outside," maybe you'll listen to the words and get that creepy vibe that I'm getting. I guess, all right, one more thing I've been thinking about a lot, and on a positive note here, not on a creepy note. Sometimes I enjoy hearing amazing, inspirational stories. Who doesn't, right? Well, a lot of people just don't even think about it. But sometimes you come across a story that is truly amazing to you, and kind of opens up your mind to what is actually possible. So one of those stories was, I heard it on the Jocko podcast. There's a guy named Rob Jones, and he was a veteran, and he was overseas and got both of his legs blown off by an IED, and had to have both of his legs amputated above the knee. And then when he recovered, he ran 31 marathons in 31 days. Obviously he had to train a long time for that, but like 31 marathons in 31 days with no legs on prosthetics, that was like insane to me. I don't understand how I'm always surprised at the incredible capacity of human potential And certain people out there are, just proving that human beings are capable of some of these insane, unthinkable things. Like that was just unthinkable to me. And then anytime I hear about any of these like ultra endurance athletes, it's just insane. Like there was a woman who ran this race in Moab. It was like she was on the Joe Rogan podcast. It was like a 200 some mile. It was over 200-mile race, nonstop. Foot race, 200 miles. More than that. I think it was like 250 or something. It was crazy in the desert. That's just that's unthinkable. That's like unfathomable to me. I get on the treadmill for like 5 minutes and I'm ready to go do something else. That's crazy. Insane. Couple other, like, there's another guy, Rich Roll. He's a vegan ultra endurance athlete. I heard about him doing the Epic 5, I think it's called. It was like 5 Ultramans, or wait, no, 5 Ironmans? I forget. On 5 different islands in Hawaii, 5 days in a row or something. And an Ironman or Ultraman, I forget which one it is, but it's like a marathon, and then you swim a really far distance, and then you bike a really far distance. It's like just like one of these crazy ultra endurance events, and he did 5 of them in a row. But I'm just continuously hearing about more and more crazy stuff. Like this 31 marathons in 31 days with no legs is insane. And he had a very very good journal entry online about the concept of I can't versus I won't, and that's something that I've just been trying to internalize that message. I've heard it in a lot of different ways before this, and this, just added to that, trying to cement that that notion in my brain. Is that, when you say you can't do something, what you're really saying is I won't, or like I don't want to try, or like I don't have the interest, I don't have enough interest to like prioritize that thing or whatever. There's nothing wrong with not having the interest to prioritize a certain thing in your life, but if you say you can't do something, there's a good chance that this is just a self-limiting belief about yourself that's not entirely true. Really what you're saying is you're deciding that you won't do something instead of that you actually can't do something. Anyway, enough with this motivational crap. Just kidding. I love motivational stuff. Why not fill your freaking brains up with stuff that makes you inspired? I want as much of that as I can get. That's a good feeling. The more of that kind of stuff that makes me excited to be alive, that makes me inspired to try harder in life, to be a better person, better at what I do, better at anything really, just like inspires me to progress in any way. That's like an exciting feeling, and that's kind of what gives me fuel. Because progress in any form it's very exciting. And I do wonder, I'm like, am I being too self-centered when I'm thinking about progress, like focusing on progress and stuff? Usually the way I rationalize it is no. It's very important that you take care of yourself in order to provide, your maximum potential of whatever you have to offer the world. Let me tell you what, when I'm taking care of myself, which I didn't this weekend, but it was fun. When I'm taking good care of myself, not only am I more productive and just like getting more stuff done that I need to get done, I have more self-esteem. I feel better about myself. I am in a better mood, and I think I'm more pleasant to be around because I have a higher self-esteem. I feel better about the life I'm living, and that has a big impact around, the people around me. And so if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not fun to be around and I'm bringing other people down, well, that's bad. So no, I'm not going to believe that prioritizing self-care and taking care of yourself is a bad thing, because like they say on the planes, everybody knows about the dangly masks with the bags that don't inflate. And if you don't, all right, well, no, everybody knows what that message is. So, yeah, to be able to provide your maximum benefit, you've got to take care of yourself. And then there, I'm sure a lot of people have talked about the balance between that and not becoming too self-centered. So I don't want to do that, but, I don't want to fall into the trap of feeling like that's self-centered to take care of yourself. And I didn't take care of myself this weekend, so I'm not even one to be talking. But I'm trying. These are my ideals, okay? And I do have to say, the difference in my mental stability and general sense of well-being and enjoyment of life was much higher when I was taking excellent care of myself in October. Then when I went off of that, I was like, all right, I'll loosen up a little bit. Once that month was over, I loosened up a little bit, and very quickly, the path of least resistance just leads to a not a healthy place, is what I found. So, yeah, I stopped waking up as early. I let go of the meditation of writing, exercising, started smoking cigarettes. Like, it went downhill really quick. And I got back on. And the difference between when I'm off and when I'm on, the intentional, deliberate lifestyle of deliberately, doing things that I know I should do and that are good for me, the difference in mental experience, like the difference in mood and wellness, sense of general well-being and like emotional stability, the difference was day and night. It was so obvious to me, feeling these two things back to back to back. And it's like a repeatable effect, I felt great in October, went off the program, felt terrible. Those were the times where I was starting to have, where thoughts were starting to enter my head of like just existential crisis type of thoughts and wondering like, what am I doing with my life? And like feelings of wanting to give up and just throw in the towel with trying to be a professional with Chalk Dinosaur and make that, what I do with my life. Just feelings of giving up. And those feelings, they enter my head from time to time, but boy, they were a lot stronger when I was not taking care of myself. And when I am, those feelings and thoughts go away, and I don't think about that stuff. So it was it's very obvious to me which way is the right way. The question would be, how do I balance it? I did a pretty good job balancing, with the exception of Saturday night, where if Benny Rossman comes up and offers to buy you a shot of whiskey, a big shot of whiskey, I'm not going to turn that down. If there's, and if there's a jam session and there's free beer in the fridge, these are things I have to tinker with and learn how to adjust. But in reality, I do acknowledge the fact that, I shouldn't need to have these things to enjoy a jam session or a hangout or something. And I don't. And there's plenty of instances where I don't. I'm hanging out with people and I'm enjoying myself when we're not doing that. So it's a total mental thing. And it's probably one of those things that once you flip that switch in your head that you don't need this thing to enjoy yourself at all, that it's just once the switch flips and you start to really see that you can, that you can enjoy yourself without it, that it's, in fact, it's taking away from enjoyment potentially in other areas of your life, because you've got a hangover the next day or something. Once I flip that switch, then it'll probably be one of those things, kind of like, yeah, once you have like a vegetarian switch flip in your head or something, and your perspective just changes on it. And then you start doing something because you genuinely want to do it and not because you feel forced or like you're forcing yourself. Man, I've been rambling on for so long. I thought this was going to be a quick one. I'm getting ready to go to Sean Howard's studio, kind of near Uniontown. We're going to have a podcast, and then we're going to jam. And I don't know. Yeah. So we're going to do all that stuff. Dang, I didn't even get through all my agenda. We covered frozen broccoli. We covered the pastry catch compliment and the effect of that. And we covered the creepy nature of the Christmas classic, Baby It's Cold Outside. So I think it was a good amount of stuff there. So I got to get ready to go. I'm going to try and squeeze in. I'm doing a mixing job for someone, David, mixing his songs. Pretty sweet. It's always fun to mix music. That's cool. Oh, great. Well, hope y'all have a great week. Yeah, that's all. How do I end this thing? All right. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. Bye now. That is all.